Hi, my name is Ian Gilbert, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at creating complex and engaging user interactions using Articulate Storyline. To make your e-learning engaging, you want to include many types of interaction. By including interaction, it makes it more exciting for the user, more stimulating, and they're more likely to retain the information within the course because of that. I've chosen to use Articulate Storyline mainly because it makes these advanced interactions or complex interactions very easy to set up. So let's take a look at the project at the moment. So you see over here I've got some slides already set up, and you can see that all the slides contain some images that I've already imported, and what I've done, as you can see in the timeline, I've just made sure they're all named correctly. So for example, here I've got Scotland selected, and you can see in the timeline it's got some layers, and I've called that layer Scotland. So throughout these slides there's various images, some text and some basic rectangles, and you can see this happens on pretty much all the slides, just to kind of speed things up for this presentation. So let's take a look at the first example. So we're going to create something called a forced interaction, and a forced interaction ensures the user follows the path of learning you want them to achieve. So what do I want them to achieve in this particular slide? Well, I've got 3 countries here, and as the instruction says above, click on each country to continue. So only when the user has clicked on each country do I want them to be able to continue to the next slide. Now I could track this using variables, which would work perfectly fine, but I'm going to track it actually using buttons, and you'll see this as I kind of develop this slide. And as they also click on each country, let's say for example Scotland, I want to display some information about Scotland I've already set up. So the first thing I want to do is set up a next button. So I'm going to come up to the insert menu and choose the button option, and click on the button here, and I'll just simply drag one out, and I'll just type in next. So this is the scenario. I want them to click on each country, Scotland, England and Wales, and only when they've done so will this button actually work. So I need to first of all disable the button so it's not clickable. So Articulate's got really nice ways of creating buttons and editing buttons. So with the buttons selected, I can go into something called states, and you can see here it's automatically created some states. So states are basically the way your button works under certain conditions. So for example, here is the normal state. That's how my button looks normally when the cursor is nowhere near it. And we've got a hover state when the cursor is over the button. But one I want to work on here is the disable option. So first thing I need to do is click on Edit States. Then I can choose the disabled option, and I want it to look like it is disabled. I want to kind of grey out. So up here we've got loads of different ways of modifying its appearance. So if I just click on this little option here, you can see it opens up and gives me even more options. Or if I wanted to, I could come in and use my own fill color, border, etc., even effects. So I'll just stick with one of these pre-made ones. Here I'll choose a grey one, so it kind of looks greyed out. And I've done the editing, so I need to click on Done Editing States. I'm going to change the initial state, so that's how the button appears or works from the start, to disabled. So now the button is disabled. So the button actually performs a task. I'm going to come into something called triggers. Triggers are basic bits of code, and I'm going to create a new trigger by clicking on this icon here, and I want it to jump to the slide or jump to the next slide when the user clicks on this button. So that's perfect. So let's test it at the moment. Let's come up to preview. I'm going to preview the entire project. So That means all the slides. And if I try and click on this next button, you'll see it's disabled and it won't work. So now I need to set up all the three countries, Scotland, England and Wales, as buttons. And this program makes it incredibly easy to make anything really into a button. So let's take a look. Let's click on Scotland. And I can see in the states panel it's allowing me to edit the normal state, but I want a few more states than that. So I'm going to click on Edit State. I'm going to click on this New State option. And the new state I want is a hover state, so that's when my cursor goes over Scotland. So I'm going to add that in. And then I'm going to add in another state, and this next state is going to be visited. And click on Add. So I've got now three states. They all look exactly the same, so now it's time to change their appearance. I'll start off with the hover state, and I'm going to come up into the formatting options. I'm going to recolor it. Let's go for this kind of a purplish colour. And for the visited, we'll recolor it and make it blue. Okay, so nice and easy to do. I've still got one image, but now I can apply three different appearances depending on what my mouse is doing, how I interact with it, the image of Scotland. So I just want to enhance this visited one a little bit further. So I'm going to come up to the insert option, down to shape, and I'm going to use this little tick symbol, and I'll just drag that out. And this just gives a bit more indication to the user, so a bit more feedback to the user that they've actually clicked on Scotland before. So what I'm going to do now is just change its appearance. I'll just make it a red tick so it stands out a little bit more, and I'll change the outline to no outline. So I've now set up that button. Let's click on Done Editing States. Let's just give it a quick try. So you can see there's my normal state, put my cursor over it, there's the hover state, and when I click, there's the visited state. So I do have two other countries to do, but this program makes it incredibly easy. So all I need to now do, with Scotland still selected, is come to the Format Painter option, and if I double click twice very quickly, that allows me to format multiple shapes with the same option. So I'm going to click on England. You can see in the states it automatically applies the three different states for England, and do the same for Wales. Right, but I just need to tweak the options a little bit. You can still see I've got the Format Painter applied on my cursor, so I'll hit the escape key to clear it off, and I'll start by clicking on England. I'll edit the state, and the only thing I need to change really is this tick. It's in slightly the wrong location. Done editing there, and I'm going to do exactly the same for Wales. I'm going to edit that state and put that on top. And now I'm done editing. So very quickly I've actually set up three buttons just by using three images. So let me show you what this now looks like. So click on Scotland, England and Wales. So they've all been visited, and I'm going to use this now to trigger this button here. So when all three countries have been visited, I'm going to turn this next button back to normal, so it's then clickable. Let's take a look how we do this. I'm going to click on the next button, which is not completely necessary, but it just makes it a little bit clearer what I'm doing. I'm going to add myself a new trigger, and the action is going to be to change the state. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to change the state of the next button to the normal state when the state of, if I just move this to the side, England, Scotland and Wales are visited. So pretty much I'm going to set this button to normal, so it's then clickable. when the three countries, Wales, Scotland and England, and you can see here it's nicely indicating the countries as I choose these options, have been visited. So let's have a look at that. Let's click OK. Let's preview the entire project. So click on Scotland, so just keep an eye on this next button. Click on England, click on Wales, and as soon as all three have been clicked on, then the next button is ready to use. If I click on the next button, it jumps me to the next slide. So now I've just got a little bit more to do. So as I click on each country, I want it to display some information about each country. Now in the timeline we have the ordinary slides that you'll probably see in most kind of e-learning packages. But what Articulate Storyline has got, which is extremely useful, is slide layers. And by default we've got something called the base layer, which is this bottom slide layer here. And that incorporates all the items on the layers in the timeline. But what I want to do is create some extra layers for these items down here, these information items. And by default, any new slide layers you create, the content is hidden. So we can then use a trigger to show them. And that's how it's going to work. So I'm going to create myself a slide layer. And I'm going to call this one England. And I'll do another one for Wales. So just think of these as really an extra slide. So I've got England, Wales, I just need another one for Scotland. Okay, and now I'm going to transfer these items onto the relevant layer. So back to the base layer, so the base slide layer. I'll select England, I'll just cut it, come to the England slide layer and paste it in. Alright, now I have created some guides to help me out, so I'm going to come up to the View menu and turn on the guides options, and you can see there's the guides. Perfect. Now we'll now grab Wales. Do exactly the same for Wales. And the same for Scotland. And then I'll go back to the base slide layer. So as you can see, those items are now hidden. So now I need to build in the interaction. So when I click on the Scotland button, I want it to also show the Scotland slide layer. So again, I'm going to add a trigger. So the action is going to be to show the layer Scotland. When the user clicks on Scotland, that's perfect. Click OK. So that trigger's now been added. And what this program is very good at doing is applying a copied action to other items. So all I now need to do is copy that trigger, select the other two countries, and paste the same trigger or action on top. And then all I need to do is slightly tweak it. So for example, when I click on England, it shows the England slide layer. So I can come to England over here. It's not going to show Scotland. It's going to show England. Scotland's showing Scotland, and Wales is going to show Wales. So let's now preview this project and see how we're doing. Click on Scotland. Scotland pops up. Click on England. England information pops up. Same for Wales. The next button is then available, and then I can click on Next. Okay, so I'll close down the preview. Now, one thing I do need to check is what options the player has. So let's have a quick look back at that. Let's do the entire project again. This preview. Okay, so you can see here it's just got a next button. What you can do if you need to tweak the options for the player, which is basically the skin here, you can nip over to the story view option, and then you can control what buttons are being displayed by default. So we haven't gone with the default next button. We've created our own next button, so we've got a bit more control of how it works. So let's now look at the next type of interaction we're trying to do is a drag and drop. So again, I've loaded some images in, and this is going to be the most complex interaction we're doing for this video. So I've got lots of little images. Again, you can see they're all been well named in the timeline. And I'm going to convert all of this into a drag and drop. So this is how I want it to work. I want the user to drag these items into the correct recycle bin. So all the glass, plastic and metal are going to go into the blue recycle bin. All the paper based are going to go into the green bin. If an item is dragged onto the wrong bin, I want it to jump back to where it came from. And then we'll integrate these information panels later on. So first thing we need to do is to go to the Insert menu at the top, and we're going to choose Convert to Freeform. And what this basically does is allow us to add some extra functionality to it. So I want to do a drag and drop. You can see there's other kind of variations and other types of freeform options we can choose. So I'm going to click OK. It brings up this panel. If I just move the panel to the side so you can see what I'm doing a bit clearer. So all these top items at the moment are going to go into the blue bin. So from this first column, I'm going to select them. So I'll start off with the jar. And again, you can see it neatly highlights the things. Aerosol, can, and the plastic bottle. So all of them are going to be dropped onto the blue bin, the blue recycle bin. And then all these kind of bottom row items are going to go into the green bin. So the newspaper, the milk carton, cardboard box, card are going to go into the green recycle bin. Right, so let's save that and just see how it works. So drag that down, perfect. Drops on, it kind of snaps into place. Right, and then I can do the same for the paper-based items. Now, one issue we've got at the moment is, I've just left a couple here to show you. If I drag the plastic bottle to the wrong bin, it snaps there. And if I drag it also the wrong one to the blue bin, it snaps there. So what I want it to do to help the user out, I want the wrong items to jump back, so they get a second chance of getting it right. So I'm going to close down the preview. I'm going to come back to Edit Drag and Drop. I'm going to turn this option on to return the item to the start point if dropped outside. I'm going to choose a correct drop target and then click on Save and Close. So I can preview this slide once again. So if I drag an item to the wrong bin, you will see it jumps back. Perfect. The next thing I want to do, as I drag an item to the bin, so to the correct bin, I want it to disappear. So let's start off with the jar. I'm going to add a trigger. So what I want to do is change its appearance or change its state. So at the moment it's showing, so where it says action, I'm going to change the state of the jar to a hidden state when the user drops the object on, and then from here it's going to be the blue recycle bin. Okay, we can just take a quick look at that just to check it's set up correctly. Perfect. So now I've got it set up once, again I can copy the trigger and select my other items that are going to go to the blue recycle bin and paste it on. Now for the newspaper, that's going to go to the green recycle bin, but we can start by pasting and using the same trigger. So I'm going to paste it in, and then what I can do is double click on it to edit it. So the newspaper is going to be dropped on not the blue recycle bin, but indeed the green recycle bin. You can see how well Articulate Storyline works. It when you apply a trigger to different items, it actually changes how the trigger works for that item. So yeah, so the newspaper will go into the green recycle bin. Click OK, and then I can select. Actually, I can copy that first of all. Copy the trigger, and then I'm going to paste it onto all the other items. So let's give this a try. This slide. Alright, so if I drag these items on, I'll just check they all work. You'll see they neatly disappear. So what I want to do now is further enhance this interaction, and I want to give the users some more feedback as they're doing this. So I've got some information about what items can be dragged into the recycle bin, and again I'm going to use some slide layers to display the information when the user drops the items onto the recycle bins. So let's take this one to start off with for the blue bin. I'm going to insert a new slide layer. It's going to be, I'll just call it blue info. We'll just paste it in. Put it over there. While I'm here, I'll do one for the green bin. So green info. I'll just jump back to the base layer, cut it, and then paste it over here. And then I'll come back to the base layer. So when I drag, for example, a jar onto the blue bin, I want it to show me the blue info slide layer. So again, I'm going to add a new trigger. The action is going to be to show the layer blue info when the object is dropped on the blue recycle bin. Click OK. Copy the trigger and paste that on. Now with the newspaper, we're going to be showing the green info slide layer, but again I'll just paste on the last trigger, and then I'm going to come in and edit it. Okay, so I'll just double click on there. So for this one, we're not showing the blue but the green layer when the object is dropped on not the blue recycle bin but the green recycle bin. And again, I can copy this now and I can paste it onto the other items that are going to be dropped onto the green bin. So let's view this slide. Drag that on. Okay, and I'll just check a couple of the green ones. Okay. Now we've got a slight little problem with how the information panels pop up, and to kind of illustrate this, I'll show you what happens. So if I drag this down, information pops up, but if I drag this one now, it doesn't pop up the blue one again. So let's take a look to see what happens and why it's working like that. So if I come to the blue info slide layer, I can see in the timeline that this little information box is due to show for 2 seconds, and then there's some time afterwards when it's not displaying, and that is why we're not getting kind of the second blue information, because it's kind of still waiting for all this to complete. So the 2 seconds where it's showing, and kind of like the pause, if you like, the area where it's not showing. So we've just got a couple of things to fix this. I'm going to drag this right to the end. I also need to come into the slider itself, click on the little properties gear here, and I need to make sure it's hiding the slide layer when the timeline's finished, and this allows for another one to appear shortly after. So I'll just need to do exactly the same for the green one. Click on the little properties gear and do exactly the same. So let's check that. So I can drag that in, and straight away I can keep on adding more and more. Perfect. So the last thing I'd like to do to complete this is to basically add in this extra information panel. So a little panel saying, excellent, you recycled the lot. So let's incorporate this. So again, I'll just cut it and I'll put it onto its own slide layer. Let's call it all. Paste it in place. Put it right in the middle. And the way I'm going to make this work is I'm going to create a trigger. So I want to show the all layer when the state. So basically the way it's going to work, so when all these items are hidden, so that's the state of all these items we've been dragging onto the dustbins, is hidden, it's going to show this information panel. So we've got a couple of quite a few things here to select. We've got the aerosol can, card, etc. Right, I think that's a lot. So when all those are hidden, it's going to show the all slide layer. So we'll view this slide. I'll just quickly drag these to the correct recycle bin. And there you go. You've got a message saying you recycled a lot. And you can see there it kind of disappears. So if I do want it to stay, I can come to the timeline for the all slide layer and just make sure the object and the timeline are kind of matching, i.e. 2 seconds there, and that will sort it out. So what I'm going to do for this slide is just check how or what buttons we're going to have for it. So I'll go into story view and you can see if I come to the drag and drop, clicking on it here, I can give it a next button and also a submit button. Or I could potentially add my own. So the submit button will score it as a quiz, and the next button will just allow us to move on to the next slide. Markers. Markers are great, another great interactive way for the user to find out more information, and they're particularly good where you want to display a lot of information in a small area. So you want to reduce the amount of slides. So you can see here we've got a picture of the organs for the human body. I don't want to have multiple slides for different organs because I want to kind of display how all the organs fit together in the body. So it makes sense to put them all, or all the information, onto the same slide. So you can see over on the right hand side I've got some text already created. And we're going to create some markers. So if I come up to the insert menu and click on marker here, it gives me loads of little icons to represent the marker. So I'm going to look for an information one. I'll grab this one here, click on there, and I'll do the heart first. So I'll click on the heart. Now I can move this panel just by dragging on it into a good spot. So maybe there. I might just move the marker over slightly so I can see a bit more of the heart. And then if I want to change the appearance of this blue marker, I can do. There's loads of different options I can choose. So I can either choose a pre-made one. Okay, so I'll go for a nice kind of contrasting colour, maybe black. And I can also fill them in with different colours, so I can customize them. And what we can also do is control how the marker appears. So an animated swirl or a pulse. Okay, I think I'll keep it on swirl. And we can control how this little pop-up works as well. So let me just show you how this is currently working. You can see the little swirly animation. When I put my cursor over it, if there's some content, it would show, and if I click, it will then display the contents. So let's actually now add some content, and you can see it working. So I will copy some of this. I'll just adjust the size, and then I will view the slide again. So I'm going to put my cursor over it. It says heart. If I click, it pops down and displays the rest of the information. So I'll just create one more of this. I'll just duplicate what I've got, so I don't need to set it all up again. And we'll do the lungs. Just move the panel over. I'll select the text. And just stretch it out so I don't need a scroll bar. And let's view that. Yeah, so very nice for this kind of information. Right. Let's have a look at the last interaction we're going to do. So we're going to make this into a tab panel, or often known as a tabbed interaction. And it's going to be like a little image gallery. So I've already done a bit of work in here. You'll see I've got some slide layers already set up with different images of mountains on. Okay, so you're all knowledgeable in slide layers. And if I come to the base layer, all I've done is I've created a character here and some text. So Articulate comes with loads of characters. You can come up to the insert menu and down to character, and you've got either illustrated characters, which this one is here. Okay, you can set up different expressions and poses. And what I've done is I've selected the character and the caption here, and I've grouped it together in a group. And then the rest of it is simply rectangles and a rectangle and text. So first thing I want to do is make this into a button. So it's going to be my tab, interactive tab. So I'm going to come over to my states. I'm going to click on Edit States. Create a new state. I'm going to do a hover state. So that's when my cursor goes over it. And I'm just going to change its appearance. Let's give it kind of a blue outline. We'll just choose one of these presets to make it nice and quick. And then I'm going to add another state, and it's going to be my selected state, so I know which tab has been selected. I'm going to add that in as well. And let's make that a completely different color. Let's go for an more of a greenish color. Okay, let's go for that one. Actually, I might just change this one, so it's kind of a blue one. Actually, those two are a bit too close. Let's go for a orange one. Okay, and just to make it look a little bit different, I'm going to just stretch it out. So this is how it's going to look. So we've got the normal state when the cursor is nowhere near it, hover state when the cursor is over it, and when it's being selected, when it's being clicked on, basically it's going to look like that. So I've now done editing, and what I need to do is tell the tab what to do. So I need a trigger. So I want to show the layer of Scafell Pike when the user clicks on this object. So let's just take a quick look of how this currently works. You got hover when I click. Okay, you can see it's now showing the image, but you can also see it showing these grouped items below, so we just need to hide them. So what I can do, go back to my Scafell Pike slide layer, and if I go into the timeline, for it, I can see here, I can see the base layer objects. If I toggle it open, and you can see here is my grouped item. So if I toggle that open and just extend the timeline, okay, so what I want to do here is hide those items. And you can now see they're hidden. And I'll come back to the base layer. So now that I've got one set up, I can simply copy it and paste it. That gives me another one. Okay, so I'll just align these by eye, but I could use the alignment panel. So I just need to change the text from Scarfell Pike to, this one's going to be Ben Nevis. This next one's going to be Snowden. And then all I need to do, apart from sending them to the back, is I need to change their action. So Ben Nevis is going to go to the Ben Nevis option. Snowden is going to go to Snowden. Okay, and what I'll just need to do for Snowden and Ben Nevis, just like I did with Scarfell Pike, I just need to make sure these characters and instructions are also hidden. So let's preview this. So Scarfell Pike, Ben Nevis and Snowden. Now we've got this strange thing here that because we selected all the items, they're all showing as selected. So what we want to do is set up something called a button set where only one item at a time can be selected. So I'm going to come back to the base layer. I'm going to select all these items so that they're all buttons. Do a right click, choose button set, and I can just use this kind of pre-made one, or create myself a new one. So I'll just choose button set 1, and if I view this slide again, you can see when I click now, only one item at a time can be selected. So as you can see, Articulate Storyline allows you to easily create complex interactions which can engage the user through interactivity. Next, we're going to take a look at quickly the publishing options, and then after you will see a video of how this project looks when it's published. So all we need to do is click on the publish option. You can see either we can choose LMS or web as an output option, and you can see it outputs to HTML5, so it will work on any device that has a modern HTML5 supporting web browser. We can also output it to the mobile player on iPad, so you can download a little player piece of software or app that works on the iPad, so you can see it all working on the iPad. And you can also, that also has the feature of being able to download it so you can view it offline, and it also will be outputted if we come up to the web option as well. It's got the same option, but you can also be outputted for Flash. So here is the video showing how these options look when they've been outputted.